A rivalry born from ambition, a friendship shattered by betrayal, and a story that has shaped the history of heavy metal for more than 4 decades. For years, fans believed they knew everything about the bitter relationship between James Hetfield and Dave Mustaine. They knew about the firing, the endless interviews, the heated comments, and the competition between Metallica and Megadeth. But behind the headlines lies a far more emotional story, one filled with regret, anger, respect, and missed opportunities. Now, at 61, James Hetfield has opened up once again about the complicated bond he once shared with the man who helped lay the foundation of Metallica. His reflections have reminded fans that some rivalries are never as simple as they appear. To understand why this story still matters today, we have to go back to the very beginning. In the early 1980s, heavy metal was changing. A new generation of musicians wanted to play faster, louder, and more aggressively than ever before. James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich were two young dreamers determined to create a band unlike anything the world had heard. Their vision was clear, but they still needed someone capable of bringing explosive energy to their music. That person turned out to be Dave Mustaine. From the moment Mustaine joined the group, it became obvious he was no ordinary guitarist. His playing style was fast, aggressive, and packed with raw emotion. Every riff sounded dangerous, and every rehearsal felt unpredictable. Mustaine's creativity immediately influenced Metallica's earliest material. Songs such as The Four Horsemen and Jump in the Fire carried his unmistakable fingerprints. His guitar work helped define the aggressive sound that would eventually become known as thrash metal. Many fans today don't realize how important Dave Mustaine's contribution was during Metallica's earliest days. Before the world knew their name, he was already helping shape their identity. But incredible talent often came with equally serious problems. Dave Mustaine possessed extraordinary musical ability, but his personality created constant tension inside the band. Alcohol abuse began affecting rehearsals. Arguments became increasingly common. Crew members found him difficult to work with. His unpredictable behavior made every day feel uncertain. Although James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich admired his musical genius, they struggled to deal with the chaos that surrounded him. The young band wasn't simply writing songs. They were trying to survive together under enormous pressure. One incident became the turning point. Mustaine's dog reportedly damaged bassist Ron McGovney's car, leading to a heated confrontation. Tempers exploded as accusations flew between band members. James Hetfield confronted Mustaine about the situation. Instead of calming down, emotions spiraled completely out of control. During the argument, Mustaine allegedly became violent, convincing the rest of the band that something had to change. It wasn't really about the damaged car. It wasn't even about one single fight. It was about trust. It was about stability. And it was about whether Metallica could ever reach their potential if the constant turmoil continued. Behind closed doors, James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich faced one of the hardest choices of their young careers. Keeping Mustaine meant keeping one of the most talented guitarists they had ever played with. But it also meant living with constant uncertainty. As Metallica prepared to record their debut album, they finally made their decision. Dave Mustaine was fired. There was no lengthy discussion, no emotional farewell, no second chance. Instead, Mustaine was placed on a Greyhound bus back to Los Angeles with his belongings, effectively ending his place in the band he had helped create. For Dave, the experience was devastating. Years later, he would describe it as one of the greatest betrayals of his life. He believed he had sacrificed everything for Metallica, only to be discarded without warning. The emotional wound would remain with him for decades. Although many people viewed the firing as a simple business decision, James Hetfield later admitted that the situation was far more painful than most fans realized. According to Hetfield, everyone in the band was young, reckless, and making mistakes. However, he believed Mustaine's behavior had crossed a line that threatened the future of the group. Looking back, Hetfield acknowledged that removing Dave wasn't something anyone enjoyed. It hurt. It created guilt. And despite everything that happened, there remained a sense that the band had lost someone who once felt like family. Those emotions never completely disappeared. Being removed from Metallica didn't destroy Dave Mustaine. Instead, it transformed him. The long bus ride back to California became more than just a journey home. It became the beginning of a new mission. Mustaine made a promise to himself. He wouldn't simply form another band. He would build one powerful enough to compete directly with Metallica. That band became Megadeth. Unlike many musicians who fade away after losing such an opportunity, Mustaine used every ounce of anger, frustration, and heartbreak as creative fuel. His determination became almost obsessive. Every riff he wrote carried emotion. Every lyric reflected betrayal. Every performance felt like a challenge directed at his former bandmates. Rather than disappearing into obscurity, Dave Mustaine reinvented himself as one of heavy metal's fiercest competitors. In 1985, Megadeth released its debut album, Killing Is My Business, and Business Is Good. The record was fast, aggressive, technical, and completely uncompromising. It immediately showed the metal world that Mustaine had no intention of living in Metallica's shadow. One of the album's most talked-about tracks was Mechanics. Many listeners recognized it as Mustaine's original version of what later became Metallica's The Four Horsemen. By releasing his own version, he wasn't just making music. He was making a statement. It was his way of reminding everyone that he had played a major role in Metallica's earliest songwriting. For Mustaine, this wasn't simply about proving his talent. It was about reclaiming part of his identity. As the years passed, the differences between Metallica and Megadeth became increasingly obvious. Metallica gradually expanded their sound. Their songwriting became more structured. Their production improved. Their audience grew beyond hardcore metal fans. Meanwhile, Megadeth embraced speed, complexity, and technical precision. Dave Mustaine had little interest in making his music more commercial. Instead, he focused on pushing musicianship to its absolute limit. Fans quickly divided into two passionate camps. Some believed Metallica represented the future of heavy metal. Others argued Megadeth remained the true standard for pure thrash music. The rivalry extended far beyond the musicians themselves. It became one of the biggest debates in rock history. Dave Mustaine rarely missed an opportunity to criticize Metallica during interviews. He accused the band of becoming too commercial. He questioned some of their musical choices, and he constantly reminded audiences that he had helped build the group's earliest foundation. James Hetfield took a very different approach. Instead of responding publicly, he focused on making Metallica even stronger. Rather than arguing through interviews, he answered with albums. He believed success would speak louder than words. Yet despite his silence, the rivalry remained impossible to ignore. Hetfield later admitted that knowing Mustaine was constantly watching from a distance motivated Metallica to work even harder. Competition became fuel, not through anger, but through determination. As the rivalry between Metallica and Megadeth intensified, the contrast between James Hetfield and Dave Mustaine became impossible to ignore. Mustaine expressed his frustrations openly. Interviews often became opportunities to revisit the past, reminding fans that he had been there during Metallica's earliest days. He never hid his disappointment over how things ended, and his comments kept the rivalry alive for years. Hetfield chose a different path. Rather than answering criticism with more criticism, he focused almost entirely on the music. Instead of responding through the media, he poured his energy into songwriting, rehearsals, and building Metallica into something even greater. His silence wasn't a sign that he had forgotten the past. It was proof that he intended to move beyond it. Still, that didn't mean the rivalry wasn't affecting him. Years later, Hetfield admitted that he always knew Mustaine was watching Metallica's every move. In many ways, that awareness became motivation. The band pushed themselves harder because they never wanted to fall behind. The competition was real, even if only one side spoke about it publicly. After Dave Mustaine's departure, Kirk Hammett joined Metallica as lead guitarist. The change marked the beginning of a completely new chapter. With Hammett's arrival, James Hetfield gradually evolved into far more than just the band's rhythm guitarist and vocalist. He became its creative leader. He threw himself into songwriting with incredible determination, carrying the pressure of proving that Metallica had made the right decision. That determination became obvious with the release of Ride the Lightning in 1984. The album demonstrated remarkable growth. The songs became more sophisticated. The arrangements became tighter. The lyrics explored deeper emotional and philosophical themes. Metallica was no longer just another fast thrash band. They were becoming artists capable of pushing heavy metal into entirely new territory. Albums like Ride the Lightning showed that the band wasn't simply replacing Dave Mustaine. They were evolving beyond their original blueprint. 2 years later came the album many fans still consider Metallica's greatest achievement, Master of Puppets. Released in 1986, it became one of the defining records in heavy metal history. Tracks like Battery, Master of Puppets, and Welcome Home, Sanitarium showcased a level of songwriting that few bands could match. The music balanced speed with melody, aggression with precision, complexity with emotion. For many listeners, this was the album that proved Metallica could thrive without Dave Mustaine. The band had found its own identity. Yet even during this period of incredible success, comparisons refused to disappear. Fans continued debating who deserved credit for Metallica's early sound. Journalists constantly asked questions about Mustaine. The rivalry remained part of the band's story whether they wanted it or not. Although James Hetfield rarely addressed the situation publicly, he eventually admitted that the constant comparisons became exhausting. No matter how successful Metallica became, Dave Mustaine's name continued to appear in interviews, articles, and discussions. Hetfield later reflected that it was difficult trying to move forward when the past refused to stay behind. It wasn't hatred. It was frustration. He wanted Metallica to be judged for the music they were creating, not solely for the circumstances surrounding one former member. Still, he understood why fans remained fascinated. The story had become one of rock music's greatest what-if questions. As the late 1980s turned into the 1990s, Metallica continued expanding their musical horizons. Albums like And Justice for All displayed incredible ambition, featuring lengthy compositions and complex arrangements. Then came the Black Album. Its release transformed Metallica into a worldwide phenomenon. Songs like Enter Sandman, Nothing Else Matters, and The Unforgiven introduced the band to millions of listeners who had never explored heavy metal before. Not everyone appreciated the change. Some longtime fans accused Metallica of abandoning their thrash roots. Dave Mustaine became one of the loudest critics, suggesting the band had sacrificed its original identity for mainstream success. But from Hetfield's perspective, the goal had never been popularity. It was growth. He believed artists should continue evolving rather than repeating themselves. That philosophy turned Metallica into one of the biggest rock bands in history.